I hope you're not just saying, well, shoot, why didn't you just skip over that Old Testament reading? That's not a good one. You don't look all that expectant about hearing anything about it. But there's some good stuff in there, so let's dig in. But first I'll start with a story. Billy Joe was a good Southern boy. Yeah, you can tell he's a good Southern boy with a name like Billy Joe. And he stopped at the convenience store, and there he ran into his friend Ricardo, his buddy from New York City. How a good Southern boy and a kid from New York City ever got to be friends, I'll never know. But, you know, Billy Joe, he was kind of the mischievous type of kid, and, well, when no one was looking, he stole 3 candy bars. And when he got out without getting caught, he shows Ricardo, say, hey, it's not too bad for a country boy, right? Pretty slick. Ricardo wasn't impressed. That's nothing. Let's go back into the store and I'll show you what's slick from where I come from. And so Ricardo and Billy Joe go back into the convenience store, and Ricardo asks the young man behind the counter, hey, do you want to see a magic trick? And the young guy said, yeah. And he says, well, give me a candy bar. And so he takes the candy bar, he unwraps it, and he eats it. And then he says, well, give me another candy bar. And so gives him another candy bar, and Ricardo unwraps it, and he eats it. And you know, you could see he's starting to lose the guy behind the counter, but he says, just one more candy bar. And so he takes the last one and he unwraps it and he eats it. And then he just stands there, and the guy behind the counter says, well, where's the magic? And he says, well, look at my friend Billy Joe's pocket and you'll find your 3 candy bars. Oh, it's kind of a good trick if you don't overlook some of the ethics behind it. But have you ever come and sat on the pews and got ready for worship and wondered, where's the magic? You know, I'm not doing any card tricks today. I don't have any disappearing candy bars. I just never learned how to do any of that stuff. And that's probably not the kind of magic that you hope for when you come to worship. It's a different spectacle. The expectation that when we come in, that we'll find the presence of God. You know, sometimes we just go to church because it's Sunday and we lose that sense of expectation, that hope that we're coming in to God's presence. And you know, sometimes it's our own behavior that helps us, robs us of that magic, the joy and expectancy of coming into the presence of God. You know, I was reflecting a whole lot about worship and joy, and I thought of an experience when I was a boy that didn't really have anything to do with worship, but spoke a lot to the whole issue. I remember When I was little, my dad took me to the store to shop for my mom's birthday present. And I'd been saving money all summer. And we went up and down the aisles, and I found the perfume that she really loved. And I was proudly on my way to pay for it. And wouldn't you know, on one of those end caps, just before I got to the cash register, there was this Hot Wheels set that I had been hoping for months, and it was on sale. And so I stopped, and I looked through my wallet, and I counted things out really carefully, and I added stuff up, and I realized I didn't have enough money to buy both. It was a dilemma, quite a dilemma, and I against my dad's advice, I put the perfume back. And I thought, well, you know, I can make something for my mom. And I got up to the cash register, and I had neglected to calculate sales tax. And I was a few cents short, and so I begged my dad for a loan. Well, you know, he was still kind of mad, and he sternly refused. Well, I grudgingly walked back to the back part of the store where the perfume was, putting the Hot Wheels back on my way, and I bought the perfume for my mom. You know, I can truly say I did not enjoy my mom's birthday party nearly as much as I should have. I robbed myself of that joy. Later, I was talking with my dad, and he said, you know, if you hadn't been so selfish and just thinking about yourself, I would have helped you buy both. I learned a lot about gift giving and generosity that day. And I think that's a lesson that might give us some perspective of what's going on in our New Testament lesson. Through the prophet Isaiah, God tells the people of Judah, because of their sins, when you stretch out your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. Even though you make many prayers, I will not listen. Your hands are full of blood. And it's followed by the instruction. Wash yourselves, make yourselves clean, remove the evil of your doings from before my eyes, cease doing evil. And you might wonder, well, shoot, what were they up to back then that was so bad? What is the huge sin to which the prophet Isaiah alludes in this text? Well, it's the sin of being religious without being righteous. Through Isaiah, God notes that people with power are carefully observing religious festivals. They don't miss any event to worship God. But as soon as they walk out the doors, they're running corrupt courts where whoever can bring the biggest bribe will get the decision. They are leaving orphans and widows to fend for themselves. They've oppressed the poor. And so God says, learn to do good. Seek justice. rescue the oppressed, defend the orphan, plead for the widow. Then, and only then, will the Lord see any value in their pious acts of worship. But change is possible, the Lord says. Come now, let us argue it out. Though your sins be like scarlet, they shall be white as snow. Though they are red like crimson, they shall become like wool. There is, it seems, spiritual soap. This failure to love God and their neighbors can be expressed with two words: orthodoxy and orthopraxy. Right? You've heard of orthodoxy, right? You know, the right belief, believing what is correct and what is true. We can see that reflected in how the people of Judah were faithfully keeping their schedule of rituals and sacrifices. They were doing what they could to express their belief. They were believing the right thing. How about orthopraxy? All right, you're thinking, wait a minute, Pastor Kevin, I think you're just making words up here. Well, you can go home and look it up, and it's in your dictionary. Or if you want to go on Wikipedia, you can find an article. It'll either be under orthopraxy or orthopraxis. It's a real word. And you know what it means? It means to do the right thing. It's not about what you believe. Orthopraxy is all about what we do or what we practice. Pleasing God is never a matter of orthodoxy alone. Today's Isaiah text reminds us that orthopraxy is crucial as well. How often we read in the gospel lessons about conflicts Jesus and the Pharisees, or Jesus and other religious authorities are having when their orthodoxy doesn't line up with their orthopraxy. Didn't the Pharisees have orthodoxy, the right beliefs up to gazoo? But they were a little lacking when it came to the orthopraxy. And what does Jesus call those folks again? Oh yeah, hypocrites. Spiritual soap washes away the hypocrisy. Spiritual soap returns the orthopraxy to the orthodoxy. Spiritual soap returns the joy to worship and opens up communication with God. Spiritual soap helps us to live a life of faith. The faith Hebrews describes so beautifully. And gives us the example of Abraham and his family. Faith is belief in God. However, it's not simply that God exists, but that God is present with us and is working for our best good. In other words, faith is trusting in God in all things. Not just say, oh yeah, we believe in God, but then to go about doing our own thing. Have you ever read anything by Max Lucado? Great storyteller, so inspiring. He tells about spending a week in the most inner parts of Brazil, visiting missionary sites with a missionary pilot. Well, to get there, they would have to fly in this four-seater airplane. It was very far from being a new four-seater airplane. It's the kind of airplane that looks like it might fall apart if the wind blew a little too hard. Orville and Wilbur's aircraft look safer than this, Lucado wrote. So all this time, every time they would have to get from one place to the other, they're flying over the jungle. Max Lucado was looking out the window, worried that they're going to crash in the middle of the jungle, and he's either going to be gobbled up by piranhas or swallowed up by an anaconda. As if crashing into a canopy of trees isn't enough. Well, finally, they're flying along, and with all that going on in Max Lucado's mind, he's not sitting still. He's shifting, he's grabbing a hold of his seat. His knuckles were turning white as snow. And finally, the pilot's, he just had enough of all this squirming around. And he looked over to Lucado and he shouted over all the noise in the airplane, "We won't face anything that I can't handle." The pilot shouted, "You might as well trust me and let me fly the plane." My friend, that is faith. You remember those bumper stickers you used to see quite a bit of, not too many years back, that said, "God is my co-pilot"? That's the kind of faith the writer of Hebrews is describing. God is our co-pilot. We won't face anything I can't handle, God says to us. You might as well trust me and let me fly the plane. Maybe that's what those folks in Judah that Isaiah was speaking to were missing out. Maybe that's why their worship was empty. Well, one more story. It's about a lazy boy who went out picking blueberries. You remember slide projectors? You know how you would warm up and focus the slide projectors? Well, my parents had one of me when I was about 1 year old, picking blueberries. My mom was walking ahead with her bucket full, and I had my little buckets, and I was walking along eating all the blueberries out of her bucket. Well, this boy was a lot worse. He was older, he knew what he was doing. His mom knew that, he was a little bit on the lazy side, and so everybody else had bigger buckets, and they gave him the littlest one, thinking, well, hopefully you can at least fill that. And so they all went out picking blueberries, and there were these pretty butterflies flying around, and he's watching them, and he's playing hide and seek with the squirrels, and before he knows it, Mom's gathering everybody up because they've filled their buckets up. And he realizes, uh-oh, he hadn't picked any blueberries yet. And so he looks around and he fills his bucket most of the way filled with dry moss. And he carefully puts a layer of blueberries across the top. So it looks like he's got a bucket full. And so he comes with his bucket and catches up before they drive home. Well, Mom gets home and, she takes all the blueberries and washes them, is making pie. And to the boy's surprise, that she makes him his very own little saucer pie. Oh, and they're getting ready for dinner and he can smell it cooking and he's, blueberry pie, that's my favorite pie. And he can see the blueberry oozing out the split in the top of his little pie, and he's looking forward to it all the way through dinner. And then when it finally is dessert time, here he gets his little pie and he sticks his fork in and, well, there are blueberries on the top, but most of it is dry moss. That's what he gathered and that's what he received. Don't we want the whole blueberry pie? We don't want to come to worship with empty words. We don't want to come to worship, just because it's Sunday and that's where we think we're supposed to be. We want to hit a bit of magic in our lives. We want to be in God's presence. We want to know what really matters. And we may have messed up. Well, I've already told you a few times I messed up. But the good news is there's spiritual soap and God's forgiveness, and we can get back on the right path. We can be washed clean. We can come and really worship. Be in the presence of God. And then go out and do justice and walk kindly with your God.